Okay, we got to start out with our meme of the week. And I for sure will tell you that Kim will not get this.
Nope. I'm like,
some nerds. Some nerds will get this. My mom threw away all my blocks. Someone's gonna do a comment.
See, he gets it. Our guest Jeff. This is Lord of the Rings.
Yes. Oh, good.
See,
good. Yes,
I can recognize that guy, the elf guy.
She's waiting for a comment to come in.
Blockless. I mean, what's the?
Oh, you're close.
Is it okay.
Legolas?
Is this like a land or something? And no.
That's his name.
Oh, it is.
Legolas.
So
if your mom threw away all your bricks, you're Legolas.
And why would you be talking about Legos?
See
the segue.
It's a very
here we go
tenuous segue to our guest today. Jeff Harry is who we'll be talking to. He shows individuals and companies how to tap into their true selves to feel their happiest and most fulfilled, all by eating banana bread. No, all by playing. Jeff helps heal workplaces by assisting teams in building psychologically safe workplaces for their organization using a positive psychology play method. Jeff has worked with places you may or may not have heard of, such as Google.
I'm not sure.
Is that kind of like
I think it's a tech
Internet
company?
Explorer? Is that the kind of Microsoft, Southwest Airlines, Adobe, the NFL, Amazon, and Facebook, who we're on right now.
Yeah.
Helping their staff to
literally
Meta. Helping their staff to infuse more play into the day-to-day. Jeff is an international speaker who has presented at tons of conferences, South by Southwest, Inbound. He shows audiences how major issues in the workplace can be solved using play. Jeff believes, might be my favorite thing about him, he believes that we already have many of the answers we seek, and by simply unleashing our inner child, we can find our purpose and in turn help to create a better world. Jeff Harry, welcome. How are you, sir? Thank you for being with us tonight.
I am excited. I want some banana bread. Let's go.
You're in the kitchen. I mean, you
guys whip some up.
I just made some banana bread myself, and I'm ready.
Jeff, thank you so much for being with us. I don't even know where to begin. I love your shirt, Shenanigans Enthusiast. We heartily, this is going to be a kindred spirit love fest, I think. But here's what I want to start with.
Mm-hmm.
I have, I'm a Funko Pop collector.
Oh, nice.
And I have Josh Baskin from Big. And I think you have a story to tell about that movie and how it was pivotal in your life.
So I saw Big with Josh Baskin. Oh man, I haven't heard that name said in so long. And he was dancing on a piano, and then he got offered a job at a toy company. And I'm in third grade watching that, and I'm like, you can work for toy companies? So then I ran back to my word processor at home, that dates me, and I started writing toy companies, and I did not stop for 12 years writing them, asking them if I could work for them. And then I eventually got it. I got in the toy industry, and I don't know if you've ever gotten exactly what you've always wanted, and you've been so disappointed when you get there. like no toys, no fun, cubicle walls, and just like no kids. And it was just like, what is the purpose of doing this? And I came here to play. So yeah. So then I remember leaving that toy industry, moving from New York to the Bay Area. And then I bumped into an organization that was teaching kids engineering with Lego. And I basically grew nerds for a living for like 15 years. And we did it all by play, meaning we had no business plan. We picked people we thought were fun. We picked cities we thought were fun, but we just made it up as we went along. And then eventually because I'm in the Bay Area, we eventually got the attention of all those tech companies you mentioned. And they were like, we want to play too. And I was like, all right, let's do this. But then I realized a lot of them weren't really playing because they hadn't created this safe playground for people to play in. So that's why I made Rediscover Your Play, and that's why I cause my mischief now.
Yeah, I'm interested to hear more about that because I think that's really interesting. Is the safe place to play, the psychologically safe workplace. So I'm curious, like, how can someone tell if they are in one, which may be obvious. I know you've done some pretty fun videos pointing out some of the cliches, so that might be easy to say, but like, how can they make them more safe? What are some warning signs, and then what is a way someone can help foster that? And is it even something that like a frontline worker could do, or does it have to be kind of like a top-down approach?
No, I think it's both, right? First, I want to like differentiate between play and forced fun, right? So like forced fun is this idea of like, you're going to do this escape room. You're going to come to happy hour with us. And there's no choice in that, right? Play is all about choice. That's what makes it exciting, right? That's the whole thing of like, letting go of adulthood is like, I don't feel like I have to do what everyone tells me what I have to do, right? Mm-hmm. There's a freeing aspect. And you just simply need to ask yourself, do I have enough comfortable, can I have a conversation with my manager where I can disagree, right? Did my manager build trust during this pandemic, or did my manager lose trust? Did my company lose my trust or build trust during this pandemic, right? What are our meetings like? Is there more laughter or barely any laughter in them? Sometimes a lot of it is just about attunement and the willingness to understand. So I tell a lot of managers, before you start playing, your staff may not want to play because they don't trust you. Play is vulnerable. Play is something, that's important to you, but you don't want to reveal to other people if they're not willing to accept you. Mm-hmm. And as my friend Lauren Yee recently was saying to me, she's like, I think people are just tired, especially after the pandemic or during and after the pandemic, of people pleasing. Like, I don't want to spend my time trying to get approval from anybody. I might die in the next, year or so. So I'm like, dude, I want to just be able to be myself, and not in that cliche BS or be authentic sort of way. So I think we have to be asking ourselves, do I even feel comfortable showing up as myself at work? And if not, do I want to invest the time and energy to do so?
I like that.
Those are some pretty honest questions.
Yeah.
That require some really hard answers in a lot of ways.
Yeah. I'm curious, like your background is fascinating to me because it is, I feel like the clues to what we're supposed to be doing in our life are planted in our childhood, whether it's, through our experiences or what our interests were. And it's really interesting, your background in feeling like an outsider and making a safe place for people, even as you were a kid, is such a parallel to what you do now. Can you tell us a little bit about that and share how what your childhood was like and what you learned and how that was fodder to where you are now?
Yeah, I grew up in the Midwest, in the suburbs of Chicago. I'm a Caribbean Filipino guy that just was super nerdy. So I was like one of the few people of color that lived there. And I went through this whole process of people pleasing. Like, I wanted to be white. I wanted to be accepted. I wanted to belong. And, without going into the details of it, like, I almost sacrificed who I was. I even sometimes lied about my race just to get accepted. And when I put myself in that situation, I almost felt like I gave up me. Like, it was so sad. In order to get accepted, in order to belong, all of a sudden I had given up the most important part of me. And as soon as I did that, I was at some like random party and I got in and I was like, yes, I got in. Now I'm cool. And then a part of me was just like, but I feel so empty inside. And this happened in like 8th grade. And I was like, oh, this is horrible. And then I was like, never again. So then I remember 8th and 9th grade, I just stayed in my basement and I just made up games in my basement. And any of my friends that didn't want to be cool or didn't want to, like be a people pleaser anymore would come, and we would just be nerds in my basement where there was no place for people to judge you, right? And that's literally the work I do now. It's just like creating these spaces like I run a workshop, I ran a workshop with my friend Gary Ware called Dealing with A-Holes at Work Through Play, dealing with toxic people. And it was just a safe space where people were laughing, crying, and even getting really frustrated, just exploring the idea of like, oh my gosh, I left a job that I loved because of a toxic person. So did I. Oh my gosh, so did I. And just seeing that relation and being like, I'm not alone. I feel like that is such a huge part that we forget. And even though like we're more connected than ever via social media, I found so many people are more disconnected than ever before and are looking for that place of belonging and acceptance.
I'm curious what some of these nerdy things that you played, because I can relate. I had some friends and we did different sports league card games and
homemade.
All kinds of. I made up a wrestling game, like a role-playing wrestling game with my buddy and I.
Oh, sweet.
So we had some nerd stuff. What was your flavor?
What
kind of stuff did you do?
Well, we had my last name's Harry, right? So we had the Harry Wrestling Federation, where I would wrestle, my sister and her friend, and then I had a friend, and we would dress up, and my name was
legit
Razor
wrestle.
Jerome. Yeah, and we would film it, and we would make like preview videos leading up to it. I ran something called Ransacking, where each of us had a couch or a mattress, and you had to smash all the cans down on the other person's fort. And once you smash all the cans, you would go ransack, and then you would just flip them all over. That's why I like to flip tables now, because I like to flip those things back in the day. And then we would do this basketball game off of like this kid basketball hoop. Called A, and it was just like horse, but it was only one letter. But we did the most dangerous moves that one of our friends broke his arm trying to do a move.
You guys had one of those in your basement, didn't you? Those little basketball hoop things. Those are awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm impressed. I'm impressed. You had more physical games than us. We had, like I said,
he's an artist, so he would make little paper dolls.
And then I would make like a newsletter for our league, and we'd each write articles for it, and we'd have big trade talks.
Edit the articles,
Yeah.
Do you remember those career assessments you got when you were like freshman year of what you want to do with your life?
Yep.
I filled one out, and I got visual artist.
Really?
I was like, what is this? I don't know what this is, but it sounds amazing. But I can't draw to save my life.
Well,
awesome.
my son Ben, our son Ben, he's your son too.
Okay.
He is a huge Lego fan. So your bow tie, the fact that you have a background in Lego is very fascinating. Would you consider yourself a master builder?
No, absolutely not. I know master builders. I know what it takes. That Lego Masters show, I knew the first season, 3 of our staff were on that show on 3 separate teams from all over the country.
Wow.
Yeah. So like, I just know that world, and I know what it takes to be in that world. One of my favorite builders, anyone that is into Lego, look her up. Alice Finch. She made this Lego architecture book, but she also built Rivendell out of Lego and Hogwarts out of Lego. And when I say built it, like, built a 20 by 20 version of it. It's crazy. She's in the Lego Brickumentary, but she's one of the best builders I've ever seen in my life. Yeah. And her kids are inspired by her. So when someone's like, are you a man? I'm like, oh no, I'm not Alice Finch. I want to be, but I mean,
that show opened my eyes to what a master builder really is.
Yeah,
because we didn't grow up doing Lego. You guys kind of did
a little bit.
Your brothers more than you.
I got stories about that, but that's another time.
With our son, he is all in all the time, and then this Lego Master show comes on. I'm like, okay, I had no idea what this world is. I bet that's been an interesting journey to have met these people and work with them.
Yeah. And it's the same idea of like people being accepted for who they are, right? All these like Lego cons and stuff like that is finding this place of like belonging and acceptance and a celebration of your work, right? Because a lot of times people don't realize, they're like, oh yeah, that's really cool. But you're like, do you understand the details put into this Hogwarts castle right now?
Hours.
Yeah, the combination of engineering and imagination blows my mind.
crazy talent.
Cool. And I got to do a shout out to Paul, who's watching tonight. I know he's been big into Lego recently. He posted something in the Escape Adulthood League recently. Cool and I like what Steven said too. Steven says, define master builder. Everyone is a master builder of something.
Ooh, that is true. That is true.
Al chimes in, says, I played a lot of school and we loved having a VHS camcorder and playing a news station. So I can.
Well, actually, it's interesting. A workshop I run with my friend Lauren Yee, The Future is Where Your Fun Is. We actually have people explore what they love to do as a kid and try to analyze or break down the play values of that. Because when you recognize the play values of that, right? Like, hey, we use, like the VH camcorder. I used to film all this stuff. Ooh, what does that tap into? My creativity. It taps into my willingness to express myself. It taps into my connection. I want to make connections with people. And when you start to recognize those play values of what you did, then you can start to ask yourself, is that in my work now? And if it's not, why isn't it?
Interesting. Yeah. I love that. What other things for someone now, probably not for some of the people who are watching right now, but I'm sure there might be some people watching later, or maybe you're just watching with someone, people who are like, man, how do I rediscover my play? Like, how do I get back to what I used to love? Like, I feel like I feel so far away from that.
Okay, so I do these two techniques with a lot of my clients. The first one is let's ask our friends, right? So I propose they ask two questions to their friends. And when I say friends, I'm people that you feel really close to, either at work or outside of work, or even could be family members, but pick 3 to 5 different people. And that's important because we want a large spectrum of people answering these two questions. The first question is, what value do I bring to your life? Like, why are we friends? Like, what do I do for you? Because I think a lot of times we don't even know what we do for people. We forget it, right? Mm-hmm. So what value do I bring to your life? And then the second question, which I love, based off the Howard Thurman quote, is when have you seen me come most alive, right? Because Howard Thurman says, don't ask what the world needs, ask what makes you come alive, because what the world needs is more people to come alive, right? So what value did I bring to your life? And when have you seen me come most alive? And another way of asking that is when have you seen me most creative, most playful, most myself? And when you get the answers back from many different people, you can even post this on social media and see what they say. You'll be fascinated, oh my goodness, that is what I do for people. Oh, I didn't even realize I did that. That is when I come most alive. I don't remember the last time I felt that way. And put that all into just a document and see it like a mosaic, and you start to realize, oh, these are the ways in which I want to play more. And then you go back out to your friends and go, help me to play in these ways. That's a really important part. Have some play accountability, people that will help you. The other way that I recommend a lot of people to do, and this is hard because this is the world we live in. I kind of learned this partly from Gwen Gordon, this really play guru. But she talks about how you can't play when you haven't soothed yourself. You can't play in an anxiety-ridden state. You can't play when you're angry. You can't play when you're sad. So you first have to identify what actually calms me down, what soothes me, right? Is it taking a shower? That's when I have a flood of ideas. Is it when I go for a walk? Is it dancing in costume? Is it wearing wigs? What is your thing that you do that actually calms you? And then once you learn how to soothe yourself, because you adopt how you soothe yourself from the people that took care of you the most, and if they didn't have good soothing techniques, then you are picking those up, right? But once you identify what soothes you, then allow yourself to get bored. And that is really hard in this society. And what I mean by that is stop binge watching Netflix, stop looking at email. And when I say this, I'm talking about 10 minutes. 10 minutes a day. You're on your phone 5 hours a day. You can find 10 minutes. But just sit there or walk or whatever, but allow yourself to get quiet, because your inner child is constantly wanting to play. And Elizabeth Gilbert talks about this, the Romans and the Greeks used to talk about how there's a muse, there's an elf, there's something that's channeling some idea that wants to communicate with you, but you got to get quiet enough and you got to get bored enough to do it. That's why when we were kids, we created such mischief because we got bored. And then finally, a nerve-sided idea will visit you. And then your job is to take action on it. And it doesn't matter the results, right? Like, ooh, I want to make a TikTok video. Ooh, I would love to reach out to that person I've always wanted to email, but I'm so nervous to. Ooh, I want to start this podcast, right? Like, you didn't know where this was going to go, but by you doing that, that's the only reason why I'm here. You took a risk, and now I'm here taking my risk. So, like, this is the ripple effect that can happen when you actually soothe, get bored, listen to your inner child, follow that nerve-sided idea, and then let go of the results. And that's, I think, the most important part, because then you can sit in that world of uncertainty and realize what fear really is. It's just false evidence appearing real.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
That's great
man.
stuff.
This is such a good alignment with all that we talk about, isn't it? We're
Jennifer
like,
says,
speaking
I
of
love this.
Whoa,
I know.
whoa.
Our people, I don't know if you can see the
I paid
comments.
Jennifer to say that. I just wanted to just let everybody know.
You know, there's something as you were talking, and as I was thinking about some of the stuff I've read about you, and there's some real salacious stuff online. I'm fascinated by the fact you talked about going to want to work in the toy business, and you actually went for engineering, like mechanical engineering, right? And you had the job, and there was a point, I don't know if the catalyst was 9/11 or just feeling like this isn't what it was cracked up to be, and then you pivoted, and that's a word I'd like to nominate that we never use again because of the pandemic, but
sometimes you got to use it.
It is work. Like, I can imagine there's someone watching who maybe finds themselves stuck, but they put a lot of investment into where they are now, and it feels like, how can I shift? How can I pivot, even though I kind of want to, and walk away from all of that effort, all that work?
All the money.
How do I know that that's
time.
the right choice? What advice would you have for that person?
Well, I mean, first, I want to speak from like also recognizing a place of privilege, right? Like, I don't ever want to be like, hey, everyone quit your job. Mm-hmm. Like all those gurus that make it seem so clean. Like, you can just, everyone has 24 hours and they can just do it. And why are you not doing it? Like, they make you feel guilty, and then they pitch you their, I don't know, whatever. They pitch you whatever they pitch you. Right. But I kind of relate to what Gay Hendricks talks about, right? He talks about zones, right? There's zone of incompetence, things you're not good at, zone of competence, things you're average at. And then there's zone of excellence, things that you're really good at that you get a lot of praise for. Mm. And then there's zone of genius. That's the stuff where you forget about time. That's the stuff where that's your play work. That's your flow work. That's where you truly do the things that make you feel most alive. At the end of your life, do you want to just be doing the things that you're great at? Or do you want to be doing the things that make you feel most alive? That's the question I would ask. And I was just speaking to my friend, Sarah Serrani, and she asked a really interesting question of like, you have, or a statement where she was like, you have to recognize, are you more interested in being curious and following this idea, or are you more fearful of leaving what is comfortable for you? And that's the question we're constantly asking ourselves, right? Is that my curiosity to see what I could possibly build bigger than my fear of the unknown? Like, I was just coaching someone today that was like, I am scared. Like, I am scared to know what I want. And I've been there, man. Sometimes you get really bored, and some of the ideas that come up, you're like, oh, like, I don't know if I want to do that. That's so scary, and you just have to start exploring that with a sense of curiosity and not feel like you have to monetize it immediately, right? Let's just start experimenting. Oh, what would be really cool if I started writing again? Great. So then instead of you thinking like, I need to write a whole book, just do some morning pages and just write. It'd be really cool. I actually thinking about starting a podcast, but I don't even know what I want to talk about. Just pick up a recorder and just record yourself while you're walking, like small experiments, so that you don't feel like it's such a daunting task to do this. Let's just do the things we used to do when we were kids, where we're like, ooh, I like doing this. This is fun. I'll keep doing it. I don't like doing it anymore. Now I'll do this other thing. Why have we forgotten that? That's just so basic. And instead we've been like, oh, what am I supposed to do? Oh, I'm supposed to binge watch Netflix. Oh, what am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to dead scroll on social media until I feel bad about myself. Okay, I'll do that. Like, we've done that. Like, you know what that feels like, right? And this comes, and I'll say this comes from, so I'll tell this story. So March 2020, I had not made more than maybe 10 videos. That's it. I was scared to make videos. I didn't like how I looked. I don't like how I sounded. It just seemed stupid. No one cares what I have to say, whatever. Anyway, the first 2 weeks, once the pandemic hit, March 15th, it was just like, it was almost like the universe was like, well, guess what, Jeff? Now you have all the time in the world. Like, there's no excuse. So what are you going to do with it? You know what I did? I binge watched Netflix. I watched Tiger King. I went on social media. I wasted all this time. But I did that because that's where, like, my heart was at the time. Procrastination is part of the process. But at some point, I just got tired of my BS, as Elizabeth Gilbert says. Like, personal transformation doesn't happen until you get tired of your own bullshit, right? And I got tired of my own BS. And then I was like, let me just make one video. No one's going to watch it anyway, but let me just make it for myself. And then I started making more and more videos. And then by the end of the year, I had made like 450 videos. And it also gave me the bravery to hop on a bunch of podcasts. And then by the end of the year, I was on like 150 podcasts. Like, choosing something that actually scares you, that makes you nerve-sighted, that's where all like the excitement is, right? This is where this thing that we're on right now evolved from. So why don't we explore more of that big magic and just see where it takes us?
I love that, nerve-sighted. That's good. Mm-hmm. And yeah, Christy brought up tinkering. Like, that's what we talk about all the time, is those little baby experiments, trying things. Like you said, when we were little, we didn't care if I always tell the story of our kids when they started walking and they fall the first time. They're not beating themselves up that they stink at walking. They just go up and try again.
Yeah.
And then
imagine if we did that with biking the first time. We're like, this is stupid. Never again. I don't even want. I'm just gonna crawl and never ride a bike ever.
Right. Yeah, it's been helpful just like seeing our kids do it over and over in different ways. And then it reminds us of like, man, why do we take everything so seriously? Like, we have to be experts. We can actually be okay with failing, and risk is important, like you say.
And I love your videos, by the way.
I know. And like,
I like to sometimes, put the wig on here and then just become a brand new person. This is a boss that really that doesn't know what they're saying, but they tell you as if they're experts. And you're like, what are you doing? I don't understand what you're doing. I need you in the office tomorrow. What was I gonna? Oh, I forgot now. But anyway,
sorry.
I love that you said your sister bought you a bunch of wigs. That says a lot about your sibling relationship. That she's like, you need these wigs. This is important.
Yes.
Like,
if you're gonna be making these videos, you should do these wigs.
Okay, so we're winding down here. I want to thank you for the time, but I have one question that I love asking guests that kind of always brings a fun answer. What food, sound, or smell most reminds you of childhood?
Ooh.
Food, sound, or smell?
It is Aurelio's Pizza in Homewood, Illinois. We used to walk into that pizzeria and it seemed like something from like, the 1930s or 40s, like run by the Godfather. And it just, that smell of like pepperoni and sausage, man, was just like, ooh, I get to play some video games and then I get to eat some pizza. Oh man, I was so happy. I was probably more interested in the video games, but whatever. Like, that really brought me back. Oh, and then the other thing, I just remembered it now. I remember recently posting this and I really loved it because it was like, if you don't have a mentor, not a mentee, but if you don't have a mentor under the age of 25, you will miss massive shifts in what is happening right now. And I really believe that,
Interesting.
and that's why, like, I feel like your kids are huge teachers for you. And a lot of Gen Zers are, because they are what drove the Great Resignation. Like, their audacity caused all these millennials and Gen Xers to be like, yeah, I don't want to take this either. This is not cool either. And they were inspired. So it's fascinating how each generation can actually inspire each other. And I feel the more we're curious about each other, Ted Lasso, right? The more we can actually grow as like a society.
Yeah.
That is great advice.
Yeah, it's a good one to end on, Jeff. Thank you for all of the truth bombs. Thank you for your honesty and whimsy. Thank you for doing the good work. Everybody check out rediscoveryourplay.com. I know I check him out on Instagram at Jeff Harry Plays, I believe. And you'll see he has a great video on the Super Bowl halftime show and the different generations, how they react to
Our
it.
kids love that one, by the way.
Oh, yeah, that was a fun one. I love that one too.
Everybody gets it in their own way.
Right.
So thank you so much, Jeff, for being with us tonight. Keep up the good work and be well, sir.
Thanks so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Take care, Jeff.